Get critical environment status for those headline vulnerabilities before management even has time to ask for the report. Welcome back to Tanium Tech Talks. I'm your host, Ashley McGlone. And we've all seen those attention-grabbing headlines about the latest zero day. And we've also had that next sinking thought. Am I okay? Is my company okay? And then the next thought, will I see my family at all for the next 3 days, right? Well, now you can find out immediately when you open the Tanium console with critical vulnerability dashboards already populated with the data you need when the org chart is blowing up your phone wanting answers. Well, here to tell us how it works are Melissa Bishoping and Tyler Schultz from the Endpoint Security Research Team. Now, if you've been to Converge in the last few years, you may recognize them from those riveting threat response labs that they lead. Melissa and Tyler, welcome to the show. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Thanks for having us, Ashley. My name is Melissa Bishoping. I am based in the Washington, D.C. metro area. I've been here at Tanium actually 4 years next month. So I started June 1st of 2020, working in both our enterprise services org with some of our federal customers and later the technical account management org on the commercial side, before coming into my current role about 2.5 years ago doing the endpoint security research work.
I'm Tyler Schultz. I'm based out of San Antonio, Texas. I've been with Tanium for 3 years. I've been on the endpoint security research team for 3 months. Prior to that, I was a technical account manager. And before joining Tanium, I was in the United States Air Force for 9 years working threat hunting and incident response.
Well, I could tell you, folks, if you're watching this show, you want to come to Converge and meet these two folks, take their labs, and talk to them. I wish we had time. We could spend a whole show just talking about their very interesting backgrounds and stories they have to tell. So go catch up with them at Converge. But today we're here to talk about something called Tanium Guardian. It's been out for a while. We want to make sure we cover it here on the show. So what is Tanium Guardian?
Guardian is one of those projects that's had such a cool backstory and sort of an evolution. This really started right before I even got here with the TAM org coming together when those sort of celebrity vulnerabilities hit. One of our now RVPs, Matt Crow, kind of championed this effort initially of getting a bunch of TAMs together to say all of our customers are worried about this big security issue in the news. What can we do collectively? Let's all put our brain power towards a solution and give them something really, really quality. And that was an awesome, winning as a team is one of our values. And that was an awesome way to illustrate that. As we grew and matured, we wanted to find easier ways to get this content into our customers' hands and make it faster. So rather than having your TAM call you or send you an email, we started posting these on our blog, which was at content.tanium.com at the time. And that was great, but it still required customers to download and import and sign that content. And that was introduced more delays. It made it faster, but it still wasn't fast enough. So as we developed Tanium Feed, which allowed us to send you those notifications directly to the console, we also developed that with this Guardian intention in mind, which was delivering those sensors, packages, and the knowledge of how to use them directly to the console at the exact moment it was relevant to you and giving you that alert so you had everything you needed to answer the question. When people ask me, why was Guardian built? It was to what you said sort of in the intro. We want to save more people's weekend time. We want to make it faster for you to get out of the office when there's some critical zero day. And we want to empower people to have answers with the context of what they actually see in their environment, not just what they read on a blog.
What I like about this story is it's a great story. We think about the speed and fidelity of Tanium data, which is one part of the equation, but you also need to know, okay, contextualized to my environment. I see this headline when I open up my inbox this morning or my feed online and social media. All my security peers are tweeting or talking about this. Now the next question I'm going to have is, how do I find out what that status is in Tanium? And now we've delivered that same speed here automatically in the console, which is what people come to expect from Tanium, is that speed. So what are we hearing from customers about this capability?
Customers are starting to look to alerts first. Anytime that they're hearing about a celebrity vulnerability in the news or things like a XZ backdoor, what's an XZ and what's a backdoor? They tend to try and look and expect that alert within the console to give them context on what is the item of interest. Does it apply to me? If it applies to me, what are the next steps that I can do to either mitigate and or resolve the issue at hand? And so a lot of customers are also surprised when they get a notification and thought, oh, I didn't know I had VMware Workstation on Linux environment in my Linux environment, for example. And so one thing that we're consistently getting feedback on is that it's giving them timely information. It's showing them things that they didn't necessarily know about their environment. And it's a easy button of sorts to get them to resolution or getting them to a known status very quickly during those celebrity vulnerabilities. The other thing that we've received from customers is an ask for more, right? They've asked us for how can we help squash additional vulnerabilities that may not necessarily be in the news? How can we look at specific risks that they're looking at within their environment, such as lateral movement risk? Or, if they hear about a new type of attacker or red team tactic, technique, or procedure, how could they potentially detect, mitigate, or respond to attacker actions in their environment?
That's why we're in this business, right? Is we're seeing the headlines, we're first responders in a lot of ways, in a very different way to think about what first responders are. We are the security front lines. So, Melissa, what does this experience look like if I'm a Tanium console user? I know it builds on the reporting interface that we've talked about on this show, and so now it's, from what I understand, it's like a customized reporting experience, kind of. How do I find that in the console?
Yeah, so once our team has done the research and we've built sensors, we've built relevant packages, we've done all the curation of guidance, we package all of that up into a pre-built report with the dashboards that are appropriate for that, and deliver it all to you. So if you log into your Tanium console and you see this cool lightning bolt up here, if you've got alerts there, that is going to tell you, oh, there's a new critical vulnerability. You can expand on that and get like the quick one sentence thing to understand it. And then directly pivot into that dashboard, which gives you a complete overview of things. It gives you the metrics on what it actually looks like in your environment. And this is that context we were talking about a second ago. It's also going to track your remediation progress over time. If we've built an option for you to uninstall or upgrade or apply a mitigation, you can do that right from the same panel. And if
wow.
You're like, yeah.
All right. I just love this because number one, people normally think about Tanium as just, okay, it's cold, hard data coming from my environment. But just starting off with this overview paragraph, this is what your team does. You research the vulnerabilities and you give guidance to people here. So this is not some canned text. This is you two writing this stuff so if our customers were going to call and say, hey, Tanium, how do I fix this? They're talking to you and you got this right there for them. I'd love that. And then there's an action button right there.
That's
okay. I get excited on this show a lot. This is just cool.
But that's so core to what we do. So when we first started, really brainstorming and bringing this project to life, the words that kept coming up were actionable visibility. Like visibility is great, but we want to give you visibility you can do something with. And as someone who has worked in like vuln management and incident response before, one of the hardest problems is just digesting the sheer amount of information. Everybody's blogs and Twitter threads and vendor KBs can be really complex and it takes a lot of time. So with these overviews, our goal is to say, this is the bottom line up front. This is the most essential information that you need to know about to be able to make an informed decision, and pair that with the visibility of your environment. So you understand our perspective on it. This is our take on how severe is it really? Are the proof of concepts out there really mature enough to be weaponized in your environment? Is this being seen widespread, or is this something that, yeah, your boss is probably going to ask you about it, but maybe it's not that big of a deal? For example, with that XC backdoor, which Tyler may talk about in a minute, it was a big, scary headline, but highly unlikely to show up in most environments. However, our mission is to give you confidence and clarity, right? That's really what drives us to do this work. And in any possible scenario that we can, we want to provide you that action to not have to sit there and go, okay, well, let me write a custom PowerShell script and let me figure out how this applies. Because sometimes there may be vulnerabilities that affect different systems in different ways. We want to prepackage as much of that as we can. We want to save that time. And I recognize that's a pretty brief overview. So if you did want to like actually dive into things, we bring you these references that start with a deeper dive blog on the topic that we put together, as well as link out to maybe vendor documentation or other security researchers who did the original research. Knowledge is power, but speed matters too. So we're trying to give you the balance of both.
This is really curated content, that's unique to the console here. Wow. So Tyler, can you take us a little bit deeper then in the experience and show us, maybe an example of a recent vulnerability and what customers have been able to get out of this Guardian experience?
Of course. So there's a recent vulnerability with PuTTY where a particular type of secret key could potentially be compromised by an attacker in the event that they were able to obtain what's called signing information. Often that's typically publicly accessible in things like GitHub commits. And so in the event that a attacker were to obtain enough of the signing information, they could derive what that private key is, and then they could forge either commits into GitHub itself, or potentially even SSH into endpoints using the private key that they had compromised. And so when this came out, it was a fairly high visibility because of the fact that PuTTY is quite widely used on Windows endpoints. And the other thing too is there's several applications that actually bundle in the PuTTY tools and could be used to generate these tools as well. So FileZilla, WinSCP, TortoiseGit, TortoiseSVN, or some of the other examples. And so if you didn't also know those applications were in your environment, then that would be something that we wanted to draw your attention to. So the key thing with this particular vulnerability is two aspects. One, did you have a vulnerable instance of PuTTY in your environment? In which case you'd want to go ahead and go and do your due diligence and upgrade. And two, the other thing is not just PuTTY, but the other vulnerable applications. In this case, in our demo environment, we have two other applications that were applicable to this vulnerability. And then the third thing that we also highlight is potential use of that vulnerable type of private key. So in this case, we have one instance where that NIST P521 key, which is what was involved in the vulnerability, so very specific type, very specific cipher strength required. And so what we did with this particular release is we went and looked for SSH servers that had a authorized key of that key type. So not only did you need to go in and update PuTTY or any other vulnerability applications, you actually needed to go in and modify your configurations on your SSH servers to remove those authorized keys to be fully mitigated from this vulnerability.
Wow. And this is what's so fun is your team has this expertise. And I just pause and reflect for a second on the state of the industry, right? There's all these millions of job openings in cybersecurity, and we've got a lot of junior SOC analysts starting. So what we're doing here is really giving them what they need to be successful, regardless of your skill level, right? If you're a junior SOC analyst and you're learning from this content, if you're a senior SOC analyst, it just saves you the time from doing all the digging, right? So this is, everybody wins with content like this. This is fantastic. So what do I do to get this in my environment? How do obviously this is a reporting dashboard. We can click into any of this stuff and get the details, but how do I get this into my environment?
For Tanium Cloud users, the good news is this information is automatically installed in your cloud environment as we release it. In the event that you receive a alert notification within the lightning bolt icon, that is how you'll see, do I need to go and look at the particular dashboard and potentially take action. You can also go into reporting. So we'll go data, dashboards, and then filter on emerging issues. And then that scopes it down to the particular information that we've released with Tanium Guardian. So that's how you can see in the event that you don't have an alert, you can see both historical as well as new releases here by going into the emerging issues section. If you're an on-prem customer, what you'll do is you go to your solutions page, you'll look for the emerging issues content down at the bottom, check that, and then you would import it in the event that there's an update available.
All right, so let me pause right there for people who are watching. You went straight for the big shot here. So we're going to the configuration menu on the left,
Yep.
under solutions for our
Solutions.
on-prem folks. Yep. And then we're filtering it for emerging issues in the top
Exactly.
right filter box. So that's how we get there. This is going to be updated frequently. So if I am an on-prem customer and I'm a Tanium security user, I just want to periodically, well, maybe every time I see the headlines, I think, okay, first thing I think of is go to the solutions page and import it. Cloud people, it's going to happen already. But if you're on-prem and you see that headline, that's your cue. Go import the emerging issues content, which kind of leads me to a popular question, I'm sure, is I know we are learning the news sometimes the same time the rest of the world is. So how long does it typically take to get this emerging issue content published?
Depends on the vulnerability and how long it takes for us to analyze it. Our target is to have something released within 24 hours. That may or may not be met depending on a variety of factors. Analysis, is POC code already available in the event that it's malware or vulnerability? So it really does depend, but our target timeline for delivery is about 24-hour turnaround.
So here's my next question. My next question is, what's coming next? Melissa, I've seen you on stage at a lot of the Converge tour shows, and as well as Converge last year. And you've been telling us about. I don't want to steal your thunder, but I really want everybody who's watching the show to get to hear it if they weren't able to see you at Converge. What's coming next in this area?
One of the really cool parts of this project is that we're able to be very flexible and start taking advantage of new capabilities within the platform. And we get to be very creative and think outside the box about how we're using Tanium. But we also get that sort of immediate access to new features as they come into core. One of the things I'm really looking forward to is how we're going to tie this initiative with Guardian, which is all about addressing critical issues faster, and tie that into our autonomous endpoint management, our AEM solutions, which start with Tanium Automate, which is coming this summer. I'm looking forward to being able to start building out playbooks and ship those as part of Guardian. So maybe think of a vulnerability where you want to maybe quarantine the endpoint, apply some mitigating registry keys, validate that those were applied correctly, maybe, and then unquarantine and issue a notification. Being able to do all of those things automated with like little to no actual code being written is going to be a force multiplier, not just for our customers, but also for our team. So to Tyler's point of being able to get this content out there faster, really, really excited about that, leaning into how we can start using that automation capability to tie in other modules and to tie in all the different capabilities that the platform exposes.
I tell you, that autonomous endpoint management vision is really powerful, and I'm so excited to watch that come about this year. So I'm just thinking, as somebody watching the show, okay, the story you can tell your managers, okay, number one, this is not an additional license for Tanium. Guardian's just built in, right? And so that's free, so to speak. And so now what we're really wanting to do here, if I'm hearing you right, is, okay, not only will you have the ability to get the data, but you can even say, hey, would you just like us to take care of this for you? And hit yes, and it just goes and fixes it. Is that where we're headed?
I mean, yeah, that's the glorious future, right? Is like that the thing that I imagine when I look forward to where I am so excited to take this project is not just giving you insight and understanding and giving you that confidence to go to your leadership and say, I have a complete understanding of exactly how this affects our organization, but I also already have a proposed plan that we can review and see all the individual steps. This doesn't happen in a black box. This isn't hidden behind the scenes. Be able to say, I understand the autonomous actions that are being proposed. I'm confident in those. I'm confident in how that's going to impact my environment. I want to press play and then go to lunch and come back and know that everything's taken care of. Like that for a vulnerability management team, or for a team, that is charged with going after these critical issues, that's a game changer. That literally is getting back your time. And one of the things that I really think is important when we talk about burnout and stress in the industry is freeing up so much of those, manual, laborious tasks and giving your really experienced engineering teams the freedom back to go innovate and be creative. So the more of that we can give back to you, I think that makes us better as an industry overall.
And we get home to see our families sooner than
That part.
later. Yeah.
More Friday nights. More Friday nights
Yeah,
at home,
more
not at the
Friday
office.
nights and holidays.
Yes.
Right. Yeah. Well, Tyler and Melissa, thank you both for coming on the show today to show us this really amazing capability with an amazing trajectory where this is headed. I'd just like to ask each one of you if there's any closing thoughts, and I'll start, Tyler, with you. Anything else you'd like to share as we wrap up?
Melissa really covered it all. We're looking forward to being able to deliver additional content, new ways of helping you respond to these real world vulnerabilities, threats, and issues.
And Melissa, any other closing thoughts for you?
I love feedback. I love ideas. And so if you have seen this in your console or you have ideas of other use cases or things that you think would be neat, please reach out to us because as we used to say on the blogs as we would post them, it takes a village to build a community. It has truly been the spirit of this project all along. So I welcome ideas, feedback, and innovation.
Well, thank you both for sharing this wonderful story with us today and how it really can help every level of the SOC, all the analysts of any experience level here, and really achieve our mission as a company. You know, our way of life is under attack in every sector, and we're here to give you the tools for that battle. So that's really what we're about here at Tanium. As usual, you probably come to expect some resources down in the show description here on YouTube. So they're there. There's several links for you to go check out. Additional resources there. And also, I just happened to mention, we just talked about Converge earlier. Would you like a free ticket to Converge? You know, one of the best parts each year is hearing how other customers have solved their challenges with Tanium, but you can be one of those other customers telling people your story. So it's a rewarding experience to help others sharing your Tanium experience. So if you go to Tanium or converge.tanium.com, you've heard me promote this URL lots of times, right? Converge.tanium.com. Go ahead and sign up to be a speaker at Converge this year. You'll get a free pass and you'll get to help other people with your success stories with Tanium. So that wraps up this episode of Tanium Tech Talks. Until next time, go Tanium.